What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Black and Gold. This is HiBruiNation, the unofficial home of your Boston Bruins. Goosey, and joined with me as always is Steve the Chavo. We got a good show for you tonight. We're going to talk preseason predominantly. We're going to talk some Zdeno Chara as he is now officially back with the Boston Bruins, and some first preseason cuts that we got from Boston as of, I believe, this morning, being Sunday, September 28th, and at the day of this recording. Steve, what's going on, buddy?
Nothing much, buddy. Excited that hockey is back. We're in full swing of things and ready to get down.
Right? Did you get to watch the games? Most of them, some of them,
I watched
highlights,
most of
whatever.
them. Watched highlights.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a busy week, but I watched at least 2 periods of each game. One game was like a half the game, but I saw enough to make some judgments here, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah. I mean, the only one I would say, like, if you could have watched the entire way without getting, like, some decent knowledge about, like, the players and how the games were going, was definitely the Rangers game, because everything, I feel like a lot of it happened in the final 10 minutes of that game, but we can get into that. But before we get into deep of the preseason, let's just talk about, like, the first roster cut. So I guess the Providence Bruins, their training camp starts on Monday, which would be the day of that this episode releases. And so we got the first roster cuts. And to no surprise, Joey Abbate, Luke Kavlin, Ty Sheveldayoff, Jackson Edward, Colin Felix, Ty Gallagher, Locke Johnson, Jake Schmaltz, Max Wayner, and Simon Zajac. They're going to be reporting to the Providence Bruins training camp, which begins tomorrow. So that's not really a surprise. So honestly, I'm starting to think that we're probably going to see more. Fluto put out the practice lines today in Group A and Group B, and you can kind of tell, what that final roster is going to shape up. So, in the game against Philly on Monday, I feel like we're going to get a glimpse of what that might be.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now, and it's just one of those things where probably like we talked about last week, where or the week before, I can't remember. You're probably going to start seeing 80 to 90% of the roster right about now, and letting the guys shake some rust off and get out there and hopefully be ready for the start of the season. And none of those cuts are actually surprising to me. I mean, I was not reading that list. There was no shockers there. There was nothing that drew my attention or anything like that. It was just definitely like, yeah, those guys could probably use some development down in Providence, and that's okay, because again, not every player that gets drafted or comes over is going to be NHL material right then and there, and that's just normal stuff, right? Part of growth. But again, nothing surprising there.
Yep, I think we'll start. You're right. 80 to 90% of the roster you'll see moving forward in the final 3 games. By the way, the Bruins are 2-1 in preseason. That really doesn't mean too much, but I actually liked the push in the Flyers, because I feel like the Flyers did have quite a bit of NHLers on their team when we played them, and it was a 4-3 win. The Rangers was, I think it was a good healthy mix, and then obviously the Washington Capitals before that, and we'll get into those games very briefly. I do like that they are keeping Lysell, Merck, and a couple of the other guys, Patrick Brown, and the practice in the Group B sessions. I would like to see Lysell with that 80 to 90% roster just once or twice in the remaining games. I want to see what that looks like for him. I feel like, and this will be our segue into talking about preseason. He was someone that I thought showed a lot of maturity. I thought about it, and I don't think, maybe not this year, but definitely it looks like next year he's going to be ready. If you've watched him play, I just liked where he was against the Capitals. I liked where he was against the Rangers. He might not have been on the score sheet, but I think personally not the offseason, but the preseason is an excellent way to look at not just points, but you're looking at development. Like, would it be nice to have a point? Yeah, but I liked Lysell being everywhere. He was attacking the puck. I think he had too much offensive creativity, but he's just someone I wanted to draw a little bit of focus on. I think at least half a year down in Providence will do some justice, get him some games, but he's just someone I wanted to focus on too while we begin the talk on preseason.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want him. You definitely want to know where he fits into things, right? I mean, if he's not going to be, on that day one roster, right? How if someone gets hurt, someone needs to sit a couple games, whatever it is, right? Gets the flu, you name it. Some excuse that the starting roster needs to change for whatever reason. Where can he fit in, and where can he be best put in the best position to succeed on the team and also help the team's needs, right? And that's one of those question marks that we need to address. I mean, not we, but the Boston Bruins organization needs to figure out where all the Lego pieces quite fit in together to make a run at things for the season and not be embarrassed, right?
A run at sixth place, you mean?
Yeah, run at sixth place, but I mean,
They're fighting for seventh. You know that.
listen,
You know they're going to be fighting for
it's
seventh.
fucking tank at this point, man. Just get.
I know. But
I mean,
I see what you mean ultimately. I just wanted to say, I'm like, we're fighting for seventh. That's likely what we're going to be. And I think it's going to be with Detroit. But
well, I mean, I think as time keeps going, right? Like, we'll probably make some readjustments on what the realistic, like where they realistically fall, because I mean, Florida's got some injuries. What was it? Barkov out for
dude,
the whole
that
season.
sucks.
It
Yeah, did you
sucks,
see
right? I
that?
mean,
No contact injuries. Those are scary as all hell.
oh yeah, because there's something absolutely wrong with you, and Kachuk being out until December, right? Like that could play a factor in the team that's won 2 Stanley Cups in a row and gone to 3 finals in a row. Where they kind of fall into things, and if they get off to a not a hot start, how that plays into
Yep.
the conference and the division and all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, obviously, but I think some readjustments will happen. I don't think Florida's going to fall off that much, honestly,
No.
but they might not get as hot of a start as one might think, and I think that can play to some advantage there, and make some games competitive, to the very end, and that's what we're looking for at this point. I mean, that's what I'm looking for, but at the end of the day, it's you never know who's going to get injured, who's going to be out for a season, right? Like you never know until it happens.
McAvoy, Lindholm.
Yep, I mean,
Yeah, you never
we've
know.
suffered that last season ourselves, and it's just one of those things where time will tell. But going into the preseason, I think there were some guys that we obviously talked about having we're having our eyes looking out for, and going from that point, it's like Lysell's one of your guys, and I liked him out there. I'll ask you this: is if you weren't looking for him, right, would you notice him? Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yeah. No, yeah, I would have. I mean, you just kind of saw it. You heard the announcers call his name, like Lysell with the play on the puck, like Lysell with the shot, with the pass. You just heard his name more, and I felt there was a difference between the previous years, and currently. I think him and Fraser Minton gel very well. And to be honest with you, Steve, just let's look at the first 2 games. Right, the Washington Capitals was a 5-1 loss. That was, or sorry, 5-2. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good first preseason game, but you're shaking off a lot of the rust, and you're willing to let that one slide, right? There's always going to
Yeah.
be, I think, one team that is better.
And you said what?
And
I
then,
think we talked about this. There was only 50% of NHLers out there.
yeah, so it wasn't, it's fine. I'm okay with that. And it's all the guys coming back and new coach. So I'm okay with it. And then, the Rangers was a win. It was I believe it was 5-4 OT, which was the funniest fucking thing was Zadorov just scoring and then just walking off.
That was the best
that
Kelly
that
I
was
think I've seen in 10 seasons. I mean, like, come
it
on
was
now.
great.
He's like, I'm done with this. Let's go home, boys. like
Yeah.
on Philadelphia.
Yeah. And Well, I guess so. I'll get into like reasonings for that in a while, but just to finish this up on Lysell is just like, yeah, I think just in general, I think the third line of at least that comprised Minton and Lysell were very consistent. I thought that they played well defensively. They did well enough offensively. They might not have generated, points except for Acimont, in against the Rangers, but like, I liked Zdeno on the third line with Minton and Lysell. I liked Acimont on the third line with Minton and Lysell. I just felt like, but the two constants on that was Minton and Lysell. I just felt like that could be a good future thing. Lysell just has a few things that he needs to work on. I think his offensive creativity is too much. But no, yeah, I would notice him.
Yeah.
But one thing I would say though is a player I was also, it was Marat Husnudinov. And I saw on Twitter, like, oh, he's having a good preseason. And I'm like, I don't know. Outside of the third period against the Rangers, where he parked his ass in front of the net and scored a goal, and outside of that stretch pass in a 3v3, I don't know if I noticed him that much.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed him, to be honest with you. When I was watching these games, his name did pop up, but I wasn't looking for him, and I actually had to ask myself. I was like, oh, who is that guy? What number is that guy? When I was watching that, just in the play, right, when you really couldn't see the number, you couldn't really tell who it was, and I was like, okay, his positioning is all right. I mean, he's there, but I mean, I'm not going to say that I was blown away, but I noticed him, and I saw some good things out of that, but I don't think I don't know. I mean, realistically, where does he fit in? That's the question that I came down to. Is like, okay, like I noticed him, but where does he fit into this final roster? And I couldn't come up with the answer, so that means he's down in Providence, right? I mean, it's just
Well,
those things.
well, let's think about it this way. Okay, maybe we should tackle it this way. So we know the first line is going to be Geeky, Lindholm, Pasta,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The second line is likely going to be Middlestat, Zaka, and Arvidsson, probably. And then you
I
look at the
yeah,
third line. Let's just think of like the people who are going to be in the NHL. Like Jeannot, Minton. They've given Minton. I think is making the team.
yep.
And
I
then
think,
question
yeah,
mark on, yeah, question mark on that third line right wing. We'll throw that up there. Could be Blumel, could be Husnudinov, whatever. Or maybe they do decide this could be Patra. Maybe they do decide to send Minton down and see what that Lysell Minton connection turns into. I don't know but I'm gonna say like the third line right wing is the big question mark, and then your fourth line is likely going to be Acimont, Corrali, Kostelik. So realistically, you're looking at who's going to be that third line right wing and who are going to be your extras, right? Because I don't really see much change out of that. You're going to play Middlestat. He's a proven NHLer. Zach is a proven NHLer. Lindholm, Geeky, all of these guys that I just mentioned, they're proven NHLers. So like now, who fills in those gaps? Johnny Beecher, youth would think, right, is a name up there. Marat Husnudinov is a name up there. Blumel is a name up there. But then look at it on the defensive side. Lindholm, McAvoy, Yoki Haru, Zadorov, Peak, Lowry. Those four. So is there going to be? I'm sorry, those six. So is there going to be a seventh D man? Who do you carry on this 23-man roster?
exactly. That's the kind of rock in the hard place. I think the coaching staff is definitely in right now. And
I kind of blame Sweeney.
I mean, who else is to blame aside from the guy that is in charge of comprising the roster, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the coach doesn't really have anything to do with comprising the roster. He just fields the
yeah,
best who he can out there and try to scrap some wins together and make a postseason run, right? That's
yeah.
that's what coaching comes down to. The GM, it's the person who comprises the roster and deals the deals, so to say. I mean, that's just it's always come down to Sweeney, and I can't believe it's preseason. They're 3 games in. We're already bitching out Sweeney, but again,
I'm not saying it in a negative sense. I blame him for the sense that there's only literally you're fighting for a third line right wing, arguably maybe a third line center. and who your extras are. Like, you know what I mean? So I think the way we should frame the question in this, Steve, is like, out of the first 3 games in preseason that we've seen, what would your, like, let's add the question mark to the third line center too. So let's say, here's the question marks: the third line center, the third line right wing, and your extras. Who are those people to you? Like, who out of preseason so far has shown you that they can be ready to play consistently at the NHL level? Because they're going to be rotating out of the bottom 6, likely.
Yeah, I think this year, I'll preface this question with that the bottom 6 is going to be rotated a lot, right? Like, that you might have a 3-game stretch with one line, and then another 5-game stretch with a different line, and that's just the nature of the beast this year. But I'm not sold on, quite frankly, anybody on that third line. Like, that
Really?
Zdeno is going to be. Yeah, I mean, that we have to play Zdeno there.
With that money, you can't sit him.
You can't.
I just don't think you can.
So that's the obvious one right there. But for center and right wing, I mean, who knows? This might be that experimental year where they just throw shit against the wall and see what sticks, and see who's a potential NHLer, and given the opportunity, you're going to get some more playing time, get some more experience with the games at the NHL level. And that's kind of like obviously a way to back out of the question, but like, I truly don't know, because what are you going to do, right? Like, there's a lot of guys that are going to go back down to Providence to work on their connection, but who says that if they're pulled away from that connection, they're going to be any good? Which, that to me doesn't seem like they're NHL material, because if you're playing the game at the highest level, you should be able to pick up a spot and go, you know what I mean? And play at least your style of game and be successful at it. Whether that be, if you're not going to get a point that game, you better be damn good in the defensive zone and making sure that your breakouts are excellent, right? Like, there's not just the fact of scoring or assisting to goals that are things out there. I mean, you look at you look at Andrew Peak, right? He's an NHL defenseman. I'm not expecting him to score goals. I'm not expecting him to put up many assists. What I'm expecting
he's a hitter. He's more
exactly
like a moderate puck mover. I think more of a shutdown guy, two-way.
Exactly.
He's more of a two-way guy. Yep.
And when we have to clarify what people's roles are, right? Like, what is that third line's job going to be? Are they just going to be out there to make sure that we're not getting bad changes in losing in the defensive zone and trying to
in the
stay
transition
off?
game, you mean?
Say again?
You mean in the transition game?
Yeah, transition game, right? I mean,
the transition game.
Yes. But also, it's one of those things where, is their job just out to put the third line out there and keep up pressure so that the top 2 lines can catch a break and get their win back? Like, what are we expecting out of this third line, right? You know that your fourth line is supposed to be a bunch of bullies out there and not go too
energy.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying is, like, you need to obviously you can't play Pasta for 60 minutes or he's going to be gassed, right? Like, what are we expecting out of these guys? Like, that's just what it is. I mean, with whoever you toss out there for that third line, I don't see them being the game changers that we kind of where successful playoff teams get. You know what I'm saying?
If you had to guess, though, like I said, who centers that third line? Who's that right wing? And who are the 3 extras that you're carrying? One of the extras could be a defenseman. It doesn't have to be forwards. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for me, I'll give you my example. I think Minton centers that third line. Likely, unless they decide to move Casey Middlestat down. I doubt it, but I don't know what Marco Sturm is thinking. For me, and this might surprise a lot of people, I have Jeannot, Minton, Blumel. I think Blumel's done enough, and he's a bigger guy. Boston loves bigger guys. And where the 3 extras for me, this might get me hung from a tree in Boston, but I have Jordan Harris because they are going to carry 7 defensemen, likely. God forbid. Johnny Beecher and Marat Husinadinov, and I think Patra and Lysell spend at least half the season down in Providence because Beecher is older. I don't think there's much more they can do for his development. Marat is also older than Patra, and I think one more full year down in Providence for Patra is going to solidify something for him in the future. He's only 20, and I think Lysell, if you pair him with him, I think they're going to just get that much better and develop that you're going to develop some chemistry there. So I think those two start the year down in Providence, despite how well I think Patra has played.
I think he's played excellent. I mean, he's one of the guys that I was looking out for. You know, I'd like to see Patra out there more. Is definitely one of those guys. Maybe the extra, right? I mean, Beecher probably on that third line. No, and
I would rather elevate Kostelic than put Beecher on a third line.
I
Beecher
mean,
on a third line is if your team is fighting for 9th place in a division, which does not exist.
Which I agree, but I mean, he's that size and could, with. That's the thing. I mean, I have no idea. That's the problem. Is I don't know where all of these guys fit, and aside from the top 2 lines and our 6 defensemen, I'm useless out there because the Don Sweeney effect is real, where he comes in and just makes these deals, and now all of a sudden we have too many bottom sixers that are, quite frankly, bottom 12 guys, and now we're stuck with these conversations. I mean, I'd like Lysell out there more. I mean, I think him getting more NHL experience is going to be good for his long run. I don't think Providence is going to give him that much development at this point, because I think he needs that NHL speed where he's playing against the best of the best to really develop. And, you know, you're saying that he's getting too cute in the offensive zone and getting too, but that's the thing. Maybe that's the type of player he's going to develop into, and maybe he gets caught doing more bad habits down in Providence because he might be just better than a lot of people there.
It's a good argument.
Then when he goes to the pros, he's getting too cute and causes poor turnovers and then gets negative, right? Like that's the problem. I mean, I think there's something to say about getting the NHL experience where you're getting to adapt to the speed, and not to mention the size of everybody. If you think you're going to get cute against, the big defenseman, right? Like I hate Seth Jones. I don't think he's a good player, but he's huge. You're going to try to get cute against him. You know what I mean? Like he knows how to play defense. Like that's just not going to happen. And
I just like the term they're using. They're going to get cute with each other.
Yeah, I mean that's just like it's like what. There's nothing else to say. It's just getting cute out there, and I've seen it all too many times where players get too creative instead of just boiling down the basics and sticking it, right? Like there's things that work and there's things that don't work at the NHL level. Focus on what works and the other stuff will come, but give yourself enough opportunity to even get there to play your game,
Here's my reasoning why I would rather them play almost every single game down in Providence as opposed to 4 or 5 games here or there in Boston, because those 4 or 5 games aren't going to do anything for them unless they're consistently playing night in, night out. I would like to see Patra and Lysell play 10 to 20 straight NHL games, because then you can actually they can learn, they can adapt, they can do something. You're seeing different types of teams, different types of systems, and you're looking to your veteran leadership group and you're looking at like, all right, how can I improve? How can I be better? Unless I think Patra, who by the way has already had that experience, but unless him and Lysell are going to get that at a consistent level up in the big club, I would much rather them spend time down in Providence developing that game even further. We know Patra has middle six potential. We know that.
Yeah.
And I believe in that. I would like to see him get a little bit bigger. Lysell, I still think has that middle six potential, but the thing is, I would just like him to just work on simplifying the offensive game a bit. Honestly, Steve, if he would have simplified it, I think against the Rangers, I think he would have had 1 or 2 points. I just think he tried to dance around and do everything on his own and not recognize that there were other people on the ice. I'm still very much a believer that that kid has the talent, the speed, and the want and the absolute desire to do that. I just need him to recognize offensive scenarios a little bit better. And so if that's what they send him down with in Patra, and they say, hey, this is exactly what you want you to like, what we want you to work on. You're this close. And if he goes out and does that, like he's shown he's already been able to be coachable, then I think he's on the roster next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, I mean,
but that's the only reason why I want them to start down there. Because if they're not going to get constant game time, don't bother. Because don't have them sit.
Yeah. I mean, I can see your point of view, right? Where, down the AHL, those guys are top 6, right? I mean,
top line. They should be.
They're quite frankly the top line. I'm giving grace by saying top 6, but they're top 3 guys as the first line out there. I mean, they might not work all that well together, right? Depending on the chemistry and how they build it up and all that stuff. But as far as it stands, they're they're one of the guys that, hey, someone goes down as an off, as a forward, they're getting a call up from the big club and saying, hey, we need you to come out to Toronto, Vancouver, wherever, right? Or head up to Boston, and you're dressing tonight. Those are the guys that are going to be getting the call ups, not necessarily any of the guys that we cut today. But at the end of the day, it's like, these guys should be making the team next year. There should be a lot more room next year for these guys to actually make it. And obviously that's a year's
deep free agent class. It's a deep free agent class, man.
It's a deep free agent class, and I get it. But I mean, with what we signed this year and, how much money we have potentially, out there, I think that these guys definitely make a run at being NHL guys next year. I just don't know what's better for their development. Because again, Patra's young, Lysell's young. Would you? I mean, you're obviously on the side of the coin where, hey, get them down there and get them playing top 6 minutes so they have experience and they're coming up. And I'm kind of on the side of the coin where it's like, I want them to get consistent opportunities, even if they only play 15 minutes a night. It still gives them that speed adjustment, that size adjustment. I mean, it's a much different. It's the same game, but the speed at which it's played is the killer from NHL to AHL or vice versa.
See, for me, it's just I'm worried that they'll sit most of the games, and I don't know how often they'll rotate. Say that again?
No, I didn't say anything. Go ahead.
Oh, well, that's just my concern. If they're up here and they don't play and they're just those extras, they're not. Then what do they gain? They're not gaining anything. So I would just rather them play and continue to work on something on the development side of elements. But that's fine. I mean, we're gonna see what management thinks. But I also did read it. So there are quite a few players that are not waivers exempt. So if they decide to send Merkulov down, he could get claimed. There is a possibility. So you could lose him for nothing. And I would actually prefer to see a first line of Merkulov, Patra, and Lysell and see what they could do. But, and that's in Providence, though. Sorry.
I think that's fair, though. I think that line has some potential.
In Providence, I don't know if it's an NHL line per se, but in Providence. But that's just me talking Providence. And that's just also things like Don Sweeney needs to be aware of. I don't know if someone claims Merkulov, but someone would claim Lysell, but Lysell is waivers exempt. So I would just be cautious. But also, there's rumors surrounding Lysell. It seems like Edmonton has kicked tires on that. So what do you do there? I think before, and we can wrap up the preseason conversation with this about Poitras and Lysell likely playing, some time down in Providence, or maybe there's a mix of people coming up, going down, and et cetera. But post deadline, I think you're going to see those fringe guys that didn't become the extras actually move up here, because there are quite a few Bruins on the team now. I shouldn't say quite a few that I don't think are going to be Bruins at the end of the year. I think either Zacha or Middlestat gone. Some of these guys are on cheap deals, and honestly, if Zacha is on pace for 50 points, and he's what, $4.75 million contract, 2 years left on it, you can get a good deal for him. So don't be surprised.
I think you can also get a good deal for Lysell too. That's the thing. I mean, I think Zacha definitely gets traded. I don't think Don Sweeney's going to pay him, and I know he's going to want to get paid. I don't think he's really going to take a hometown discount, right? I think there's more value in trading him, and the Bruins get something out of it, and I think they could get something decent out of it and kind of fill in a gap that they quite frankly have so many of. Johnny
Beecher might not even be a Bruin.
I'm with you. I think we should trade him. I mean, like, I don't think you're going to get much for him, to be quite frank with you, but I don't really see him on the roster either. Like, it's just,
that's all I'm saying. Though, like, there's a couple Bruins, and I wrote a blog about it on don'tfuckwithmedia.com about like two different scenarios for the Boston Bruins where by some miracle they end up buyers at the deadline. That would be something, wouldn't it? But it's not going to happen. I thought that was the unlikely scenario where you could go after a guy like Connor Garland, Jared McCann, or some other pieces that need on your second line. But I felt the most likely scenario was that, and this is important too with the preseason discussion, is because those people who don't make it, and when you make room on the roster, those people tend to be elevated. So that's why this is just a brief discussion on fast forwarding a bit and just saying why this is relevant. I don't think Jonas Korpisalo, he might not be a Bruin, thank God. But, it's just because of the money aspect, not because he's a bad player. But, there's just some things. So, that's why I wouldn't mind, seeing Poitras just spend some time. Not a lot. If he plays well, call him up. He's young. He's only 20. Lysell's turning 23 this year. It's not over for him. So, but next year, but by next year, if he hasn't shown the same progress that I think he's shown, then yes, I think he's done. But those are my thoughts, dude. Like it is daunting. It's definitely hard, but that's where I think the roster is shaping up, and I think we're going to see it against Philadelphia on Monday, because I think they're going to end up playing about that 90% of that roster just to see what looks, and it looks like Lysell and Merck are not on it. So buckle up.
Yeah. And another comment on the preseason. I mean, for what it's worth, I think that playing at MSG against the Rangers and then playing down in Philly, the team showed some signs of life in a fight, right? I mean, they won those games, but they weren't easy games, and it seemed like the team didn't quit, and that's a positive that I took away, right? I mean, I thought the whole Rangers game was kind of sloppy, to be honest with you. There was the problem with the preseason right now is there's a lot of defensive zone breakdowns. Not a lot of active sticks, not a lot of people picking up an open man, giving people too much room to breathe. And I think that's been very present for the first three games, but I think coming back, forcing overtime and then getting a win out of the Rangers.
Zaddy with the walk-off home run.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I'm glad they won, right? I mean, it is what it is. I think it showed some showed some signs of a fight in this team that I didn't think that they actually, quite frankly, had. Right. Same with Philly. I mean, I
Yep.
remember watching the game, and they went up. What was it, 2-1, and then a minute later let up a kind of a cushy goal to Philly, and they tied it up, at 2, and then from there it was kind of a dogfight where it was 3-2, three
Well, did you
three, and then 4-3.
see Beecher's goal?
I did.
That was also hilarious.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's preseason though, which I mean,
I
those
know.
type of things are going to happen, obviously. But what I liked out of it is the fact that they fought to the end. And
Yep.
again, Rangers, they forced overtime and they came away with the win, right?
Yep.
Same kind of, they didn't force overtime, but that game, the Philly game, it was definitely a dogfight, and they ended up winning, right? Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes the puck just bounces the right way, and we're on the receiving end of that.
Or you're Victor Soderstrom and you just give the puck to the other team and they score a goal. I was punching air, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how you do that. Like I was like, yes, all right, we got on the board, and the Rangers answered right back because you coughed it up. Like, I don't know. Have you seen, like, Soderstrom was bad, and
I know.
they're still keeping him up here, probably just as part of Group B. But wow, he's not making the team.
I don't think he's
Ooh,
making the team either. I think it's more about development though, right? Give
yeah,
him some exposure to NHL ice time, and hey, go down to Providence and work on XYZ, right? That's kind of what they can do it. And I don't think that, for what it's worth, the Bruins, development program, it's not the worst. I mean, they might not have the best program
I
there
think it
is,
just got
but
better
I think it got better. I definitely think it got
with
better, but I
with
don't think it's
hiring
good.
with Chara's hiring. I think it got better. I think it got a lot
Oh,
better with that, and we're about to
I agree.
dive into that too.
I
But
agree. And I
the
mean, I can't blame the coaching staff and the other, trainers that actually developed these guys, because Don Sweeney didn't draft the best people available, and he drafted bust, right? So what I'm saying is, I'm giving so much credit to the coaching staff and the trainers down there. No credit to Don Sweeney, because he's a guy who's getting the personnel and leaving the team with, oh, we're the 30th ranked, prospect pool in the NHL, whatever. I think, when you look at guys like Lysell, Patra, you know, even some of the defensemen that have moved up, right? Like, they have potential, and they're going to develop these guys into potential NHLers. And I think, full credit, obviously going back to, Boston is a defensive minded team. They build from the net out, right? With the way that
Yep.
they develop goalies and the way that they develop defensemen. I think, you know, once we kind of finally add that piece of developing offense, we'll be pretty good. And and as a total organization, right? If a team needs a goalie, right, we can trade him a goalie and get something in return, kind of fix the offense, right? Like, there's so much potential down there where, if a few guys have a really good season, a breakout season, where, now we're talking about getting better draft picks. Now we're talking about getting, better players at the end of the day. So it's a lot of credit down
Yeah.
to the coaches down there and the trainers down there, because they know how to develop people. It just takes a little bit longer than
Yeah.
most people think.
Well, one person I definitely want developing a little bit more is Mason Lowry. He also had a rough couple games too, so I need to see a little bit more out of him. So hopefully, like I said, the new addition in Zdeno Chara. By the way, well, it's always I'm glad he's back. Warm welcome to have him back, obviously, and we'll transition to that. But Mason Lowry is someone also I think he needs to, and Marco Sturm alluded to it too, that he needs to clean up his defensive game a bit more too, and they're going to work on it. So, but I like Marco Sturm ultimately, Steve. Like, the preseason, and I like Marco Sturm's approach to everything. He's very open. He's very honest. He's said that we're going to need to, there's going to be growing pains. It's a new defensive system. It's a hybrid system, from my understanding. It's a whole bunch of other things. So, but I like how he's holding players accountable, but he's not belittling them to the point where it's going to hinder their growth. He's like, it's just the things we need to work on because we want these guys to grow and develop into other things. Like, you know what I mean? That's the big key that I think, especially with the new coach, is something that you want, a coach that believes in you, even though you make a mistake. Like, keep your head up. It's like, you make a mistake, but it's how you respond too, right?
Well, we've seen the opposite end of that, where a young guy makes a mistake and then he doesn't play for the rest of the game. We've seen
Bruce
that a bunch.
Cassidy.
Yeah, I mean that's his coaching
Claude.
style. I mean, it's Claude. He was that type of guy too, and I'd much rather a guy where it's like, listen, like nobody's perfect. People are going to make mistakes out there. Nobody plays a perfect game, and that's why it's always about continuous development, right? Like even Pasta, right? Love Pasta. I think he's great offensive talent, but hey, he don't back check.
He could work on some defense.
He don't back
here's
check
the thing.
at all.
You don't put a guy like David Pasternak out there to back check. I'm sorry. He's out there to do he's out there to get you a point and a goal. Like, yes, could he like, sometimes have like a better defensive read, but
listen, I'm with you on that, but sometimes, hey, all it takes is just keeping up pace and taking away a passing lane.
Yeah.
So it doesn't turn into anything that's just what it comes down to. Is like, especially with the style of the Bruins, of old, how they played defense, take away passing lanes, active sticks, get your body in the way, show up. Obviously, Pasta's out there to score or generate offense, but when you're playing the game at its basics, which I think the Bruins need to come back to, because we're starting off very low, back to basics and work your way up from there. Especially like you just said,
you got note, Steve wants everyone to be Patrice Bergeron.
No, I don't want everybody to be Patrice Bergeron, but I mean, there's something to be said about the 6-time Selke winner.
Yeah, honestly, real thing though. Sasha Barkov could challenge that. There's a debate up there, but that's a debate you and I and all the rest of the Bruins fans will have to. Someone's gonna have to die on a hill on something, but that's a debate for like a future discussion.
Date. Yep, I agree.
But
I mean, good.
Yeah. Final thoughts on preseason, Steve, and then we're going to talk about Zdeno and Chara's return, his roles and responsibilities.
Got to clean up the defense. Got to clean up the neutral zone and offensive zone. Let's keep it simple out there. Get good passes, get good shots, gets good rebounds. I mean, back to basic, boys. That's really what we need to do. Clean it up, and hopefully by the start of the season, it'll be cleaned up to a point where we can move forward and not have to talk about the basics.
Right. Cool. No, excellent. Couldn't agree more. Awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I want to talk about Z, but I do love Z. It's hard not to.
It's hard not to. I mean, the captain. I mean, that's just what he is. But I'm so excited when I woke up and read that Zdeno Chara is back with Boston. I was giddy. Like I was so excited. The fact that we have him back in the locker room, so to say, working with players, working with coaches, I think that is going to pay dividends for the future of this organization. He's one of the best defensive players that I can say I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, he's not again, hardest shot out there, whatever. The way he plays defense and the way he can teach people. Yep, the way he can teach people though how to play defense is, I mean, it's bar none. He's going to be so pivotal in that locker room, getting people to where they need to be.
He's so good, dude. And you want to know what, for me, Steve, it's not even just who he was on the ice. To me, the closest thing to him, like, he's like Big Papi, but for the Bruins. The way he embraced Boston as Boston embraced him, the humanitarian things he has done. He's run the Boston Marathon. He's always supported local local Massachusetts shops, everything. He was a leader on and off the ice. He was honestly a phenomenal guy. He read like a book a day. He spoke several languages. This guy's like Superman. It's just he's someone that you could honestly admire as an individual. and just want to model your own character after. And I mean, I think when he comes back, like, you know, him coming back is just going to help that locker room become what it was. You know, whenever you have these transitioning teams, your biggest concern is like, who is going to be the diva in the room that could blow it up? And I feel like with him there, and like, you know, it's part of his role. Like his roles are is like, you know, he's going to improve player and coach, you know, relationships. He's going to be a part of player development, prospect development, hockey operations advice, and you know, he's going to be a presence at the games and the practices. And so he's just going to basically be this ultimate resource to the staff and the players, especially with players that have had play with him. You know, McAvoy was his defensive partner. Uh, uh, Pasternak played on the team with him, and so you know Zaka, I believe, also played with them. As you know, it's just they know who he was, and there isn't also a player on the team who didn't know who he was, but not at that same level that those other players did. And so I think just hearing from him, especially after the shitstorm that happened last year with Joe Sacco and Montgomery, and like you know the Swayman ordeal with the contract, and like you know you want to get that team back to the state it was in like, you know, 2022, 2023. I don't mean record wise. I just mean like, you know, in terms of solidarity, you want to make sure that that is still there and it's still cohesive. And so I think, you know, having Z back is just, it's wonderful in so many ways. And I'm beyond elated that he's with the team. It does warm my heart. What's left of it anyway.
It made me so happy that he's back. I mean, I when I read that, obviously I was giddy, but I immediately thought to something that you said, right? Where, oh, Pasta doesn't want that role of wearing the C, right? We don't think, you know, I can't remember what you exactly said, but I don't think McAvoy's ready to wear a C, right? Maybe.
Did I say Pasta didn't want it, or I just don't think? I thought I said I don't think Pasta's that guy that he could transform into that.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, I don't think he's that guy in the locker room you want to wear the C, because he's the kind of personality that I read into that brings people together differently than a captain would. It's like how David Backes said it, you know?
Yeah. And I'm more leaning towards the McAvoy side of things, right? Where I don't necessarily think he's ready. You know, you don't necessarily think he's ready. Where, you know, some of his comments when Montgomery got fired and all these things, right?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Maybe, just maybe, Big Z will yet again take Charlie McAvoy under his wing and coach him up on how to lead a team in an efficient way, where Zdeno Chara himself was so successful at leading a team and being the big presence in that locker room and bringing the guys together and holding people accountable. Maybe, just maybe, that's what's going to happen. And I think clearly Charlie McAvoy. I think when you're playing at the top level, you still need people to idol, right? Like, look up to, and who you want to become as a player, as a, you know, as a whatever, right? You still need to have some sort of example set forth for you to kind of strive for. And I think this might just be something that's, you know, maybe in a season with Big Z coaching, you know, a couple of these guys up, you know, it's going to make dividends where Charlie McAvoy earns a C, right? Or whatever. I think just, I was thinking about what we were talking about with Charlie McAvoy, and this immediately stood out to me, where, you know, Zdeno Chara coming back, coaching up these guys and working with guys as he did for his entire career to make everybody better around him. I think that's going to.
I don't think that's a bad take. I don't think it's a bad take, Steve. I think it's good. I think that's very valid. I think it's a good point. Like, you know, and we even talked about it in previous episodes where we said maybe the next Bruins captain is not on this team. But having Zdeno back, it gives me more confidence now that leadership can develop and it can flourish. And so, and I'm not saying Pasternak isn't capable of it. I'm not saying McAvoy isn't capable of it. I wasn't saying like you know, there's players on this team that are absolutely capable of it. It's not that discourage any of them from becoming a captain, but it's just like, but are they ready? It's that aspect. I'm like, are they ready to do it? And like, it's just my personal thoughts on Pastrnak is just like, I see him as a leader, but I don't see him as that rigid captain or like, I don't see him like an Alexander Ovechkin. I don't see him like a Drew Doughty Drew Doughty's, I think, an alternate, but I don't see him like, I guess as maybe a Connor McDavid-esque type guy or an Alexander Barkov. I feel like there's just something slightly different about Pastrnak where the A suits him better than the C.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And we were talking about, the Bruins' next captain might necessarily not be on the team, right? Bringing Z back.
My mind's changed.
My mind has kind of swayed into a different direction where, there's several guys that have been on the team for a while. Who knows what could happen? I will stand firm on this. I don't think that the Bruins will have a captain this entire season. I don't think that will.
Yeah, I think they would have announced it by now. They're not. I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, or they could still announce it before the season starts. But typically, I think it would be known before preseason whether or not there would be a captain. The question is who's going to be the third A, and like that could be Lindholm, either of the Lindholms, I think, or I don't think Zacha. But
do you think there is going to be a third A?
Maybe they don't. That it's optional. They don't have to. But I mean, I bet you they might have some rotating leadership, like in the sense of that, like
I think they might have some
someone gets injured.
Yeah, I think that they'll have some rotations, but I'm I'm sticking to my guns on this. Is I think it's going to be McAvoy and Pasta all year, and it's just going to be them two. Maybe, obviously I stand to be corrected on this. It's a long season, but I doubt they'll rock a third A many times this season. I think I think being solid on McAvoy and Pasta is going to be pretty much the predominant look of this Boston Bruins team this year. And who knows, with again a year under Z helping these players, who knows what's going to happen in the next season, right?
That's why I think he's here too. I think Don and Cam have an idea of who that next captain's going to be, and I bet you will see Zdeno working with those individuals, quite well, or in a large capacity, and then Cam and Don will reassess that based on Chara's recommendations. Like, I think it is. The organization sees the direction where the team is going. I think they know they're not going to be a playoff team, but obviously you can't tell you can't tell Bruins fans, you can't tell the public that. You can't tell the public of an original six team that you're not going to be a playoff team. You still have to try something, but also I think they recognize that
I'm going to disagree on that, but
that's fine. You can disagree with it, but
go ahead. I'll let you finish.
But we're going to be seventh. So, like, that's fine. I think we're better than Detroit. I don't know what the fuck Steve Yzerman's doing to Detroit. He's fucking burning that team down to the ground, which is so depressing. Like, they fixed the issue, and you should go listen to, for those of you who listen to us, go listen to the latest episode of Pucking Around podcast. It was episode 83, where we actually reamed the Detroit Red Wings because we don't know the direction where they're going, and so that's the only team I think in the Atlantic Division that Boston is likely better than. Unless Buffalo does what Buffalo does best and just shit their pants. But I think you're going to see Boston at 7th, and that's fine. Go get a top pick. Steve, if we get Gavin McKenna, McKenna, Higgins, and Pastrnak I'm okay. That's my life.
It's an exciting thought, and we have to wait so long to see the reality
is going to get him.
Pittsburgh. I wouldn't be surprised if Chicago gets him too. Whatever.
Why do you think McKenna's at Penn State? He's already getting familiar with the area. Like, come on. Like, that's going to be the biggest scandal when that happens. Yeah. But I digress.
I mean, I hate it. I don't. I can't even think about that right now. There's too much stuff on the Bruins forefront to be worried about who's getting Gavin McKenna right now. And
I know.
It's
sorry.
But I'm
How
going
are you
to
delusional, dude? And the season hasn't even started. Okay?
I know, and
Tough
that's
stack on.
the problem with Bruins fans is 70% of them are absolutely delusional, and me, I like to deal with reality, and reality most time isn't pretty. I would much rather a organization say, "Hey, we're going to be rebuilding," than what Don Sweeney did to us and Cam Neely did to us. Like, just be honest with the fans. That way, we're not getting amped up over nothing. And if we're going into a rebuild, we're going into a rebuild. Set the expectations at that, right? This Cam Neely, we're trying to compete for the playoffs. Yeah, no fucking shit, dumbass. Why are you an NHL team?
So aren't
You're there
31 other teams.
There's 31 other teams that are also competing for the playoffs and a Stanley Cup. The whole mission of a hockey team is to win a Stanley Cup, you jackass. No shit, you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. But if you're at the point of being rebuilding, be honest with yourself and be honest with everybody around you, so that way the cruel Boston media doesn't take you down. I'm done. It is what it is.
Thank you, Steve, for the wonderful speech. Thank you.
You're
That was
welcome.
our valid. That was our
Anytime.
valid Chavotorian. That
Yeah.
was. That was
It's
awesome.
ridiculous.
You
Be
son
honest
of a
with me.
bitch. You son of a
It's
bitch.
so
You be
true,
honest
though.
with
You
me.
son of a bitch. And we have to deal with this guy for at least 2 more years. It's
Oh, he's on the
it
hot
makes me
seat for
sick.
sure. 100%.
Well, he needs to be in the hot seat. The fact that he got rehired for a 2-year extension. What else you want me to say?
I think that's the thought. They're gonna just get the team into a state where it's enough to transition it to another GM who can handle it from there. That's my thoughts on it. But I don't know. That we're gonna fall too down to a rabbit hole. But I'm glad listen, Big Z's back. Hockey is back, ladies and gentlemen. Roster cuts are already happening. We are less than 2 weeks away from official puck drop of the 20. God, I already fumbled that 2025-2026 NHL season, where your NHL Boston Bruins are likely going to finish 7th at best. I have them at 6th in the Atlantic Division. The only 2 teams that I see them beating is Detroit and Buffalo. But that's just because Detroit is going in a direction that on a compass that doesn't point north, and then Buffalo just so happen if they just poop themselves again. But that was our preseason talk. That was our talk on Zdeno Chara. We hope everyone was excited to see that Big Z was hired back in Boston, because if you aren't, you suck. But yeah, Steve, final thoughts.
The only news that makes me excited is Big Z coming back.
Yeah,
that's it.
You think they have to readjust the doors for his height?
No, he can duck.
Well, that's fair. Okay, fine.
Whatever. It is what it is.
I don't know. He's getting older, so I just don't want him to hurt his back. You know what I mean? What if he decides to lace up? No, I'm only kidding.
He's a triathlete now. He can handle it.
He is. He's nuts, dude. Awesome guy. All right. Well, I don't have any final thoughts. Steve pretty much covered it all for me. But ladies and gentlemen, we hope you guys enjoyed episode 46. We are 4 away from the big episode 50. We're going to try and think of some fun, creative stuff to do for you guys, possibly even a giveaway for the 50th episode. So make sure you guys be on the lookout for that. That might even be a live stream, so you can interact with us. That date will be determined. It probably will be about 4 weeks from the date of this recording on a Sunday evening. So don't forget to join us for that. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, tell us your thoughts. Who do you guys think is going to make the final roster? Next week, we are back. By the way, we are back to a weekly schedule, so we'll close out our preseason thoughts next week. We're going to have definitely what the final roster is going to look like as more cuts come, and then we'll preview our 2025-2026 predictions in the following episodes and keep you guys hopefully up to date with all these Bruins news. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter as well. Visit don'tbuckwithmedia.com for all of our blogs. And if you ever want to hit us up, on Twitter, we always appreciate that. Until next time, though, guys, go Bruins.